Hey, Per. So we were just having an interesting conversation, and I just want to step back for a second and think about really what the question is here. You know, we've been talking about how everything with the crisis that we're going through in the country is obviously also affecting us a lot as an industry. And you were just raising an interesting point about what types of market research agencies are going to thrive. You know, if things are kind of, you know, if we're going through a lot of pain in our profession right now, if we as, you know, have our Phoenix moment and arise from the ashes, what types of market research agencies really are going to thrive? Now, I have some opinions, but you have some interesting points here that you're making, so I wanted to try to capture that.
Well, I think that what we've seen already over the past few years is that the model of the big companies, the big MRAs, has been on a bit of a shaky ground, right? And we've seen that what's been happening with the Kantars and the Nielsen's and the ComScores. I think that smaller companies, smaller MRAs, are set up for more success after this comes out, because I really think that we're going to need to work nimbly. We're going to need to be able to really dig in with our clients and not just sell them products, essentially, right? I think one of the problems with the larger companies is that they started productizing everything in a way that's not, you know, fit for purpose. Sometimes it's really just what's the easiest thing I can do to kind of get this thing done. But smaller shops are always going to end up working much more closely directly with their clients to really figure out what they need and how to do it the right way. Right. So, and you're not going to get sold something by somebody who then puts it off to some junior person, right? Because you're not paying big bucks. You're going to get sold something by somebody who may be working on the project directly with you afterwards, right? It's going to be a partner.
But to be fair, that's an argument that's been around forever, right? There's always been that point that if you need a lot of personal attention, or if you really want something that's very consultative and tailored to you, as opposed to being productized, that you go to a smaller research agency. And of course, exceptions exist, right? There are some market research agencies that are larger that, you know, kind of operate as a conglomeration of smaller, nimbler market research agencies. So, I do see examples of both, but I think that's been around for a really long time. I think that one of the things that makes a difference these days, you know, coming out of this sort of change in, you know, the structure really of the market research agency industry, the amount of concentration there is and the average size of the companies. I wonder if we're going to see a better alignment come out with what's going on the corporate research side. Because what we've seen on the corporate research side over the last few years is a lot of real upskilling. You know, in-house research and insights teams now do a lot of really great work in-house. And how they partner with market research agencies is changing. Have you seen any of that in your work?
I did want to just follow up. So the reason why I know that conversation's been around for a long time. The reason why I think it's so important now is because figuring out how to move forward after all of this is a new landscape, right? And so where I see, let's go broader than market research, where I see analytics of any kind failing constantly, it's when assumptions change, right? So I like to talk about this, where I like this idea that there was a Nate Silver effect, where Nate Silver showed up and predicted a couple of election cycles really, really well. And then an election cycle came around where Nate Silver didn't do very well, because all this modeling, so I'm just using modeling as an example, but it requires you put all kinds of assumptions into the model, right? And the assumptions changed. Well, I think if you look at the market research industry, if you actually back up, if you look at consumer products or B2B, if you look at all these things, a lot of assumptions are going to change. And so you need a partner who can really partner with you and figure out how to do the work now that the assumptions changed, and not the formulaic stuff that had been built upon a much more stable environment. So that's why I think
I see what you're saying, right?
It's more important now. But anyway, so back to your.
No, I mean, it's an interesting, it is an interesting point that the productization is a different kind of service offering than this kind of more timely approach needs to be.
But to your question, you know, I have seen that change. from the corporate client end. I do think that there, I definitely think to some degree corporate clients are becoming more empowered to do work internally. But it's a personal bias potentially on my side coming out of qual and but I think that some of that need has been filled actually with productized solutions, right? So I think the pitch from the companies that have the productized solutions has often been like, this is how you empower your team to do it themselves, right? This is how you don't need the large MRA anymore, is by using this more automated solution. Well, I think that there is a space where you can actually fill those needs. Some of the automated solutions are great, by the way. I'm not here to bash like automated research and productized research, but I think some business problems need something more than that. And I think there's a space to still empower those teams and to use all the resources that companies are building internally, but in partnership, again, with a market research company, right? And where I just see smaller companies having an easier time forming those partnerships and working with people that way. Doesn't mean a larger company can't do it. But that's my sort of, I guess it's partly hopeful.
No, I appreciate that. And then, so there is a discussion about, the right size of the supplier, of the partner that's providing support. I also think a lot about the types of skills. What are the skills that these new corporate teams have that they do want partners for? Are they looking for the partner who's going to have, end-to-end skills? Or are they more likely to be looking for the specialists or people who specialize in certain types of data or certain types of methodologies, or even people who specialize in specific types of analyses or mindsets? So I think that the company size, changes are going to be very interesting. I really agree with you for a couple of reasons, but I also think we're going to see some changes in the skill sets. I think it's going to be harder for there to be a lot of full service market research agencies. I think we're going to start to see more specializations. And this has kind of been bubbling up for a while now, so I don't think this is any big news, but especially when I look at what's going on in some of the big corporate insights teams and how their organizational structures are changing, the skills of the people that are evolving. Yes, a lot of these teams are taking advantage of automated solutions. Some of those automated solutions are also being taken advantage of by market research agencies.
And
some of these teams are really doing some very sophisticated work in-house now, including working with different kinds of combined data sources, and breaking down those silos and doing all of the things that we've been talking about as aspirational for a while seems to really be happening now. And so I see with those teams now that they have some really interesting skill sets in-house and they really are executing both in-house research and working with partners, that's going to have an interesting impact on what types of small, nimble agencies are going to develop.
Yeah. Well, there's also another part of that small, nimble thing is having your own network of partners, right? So to your point about specialists, you can have a large corporation, a large MRA that has potentially everybody in-house to do every different kind of thing. Or you can have smaller, like, hey, Smithy, right? It's my wife and I. She's a brand strategist. I'm an insights person with a lot of background in qual and then in quant as well, and now in advertising research. But we partner with other people with every client that we're working, right? So my wife partners with somebody who's absolutely brilliant go-to-market strategist because they do a lot of startup work, business, like from the whole kind of business plan aspect of it to the marketing plan. Partner with, on the creative side, partner with a design agency to do design, you know what I mean? And so I think those types of collaborations allow companies to kind of take blocks and put them together in the best ways possible.
We used to call that systems integration in IT.
Yeah. Well, and without being shackled to the parent company. This happened in advertising too, right? The holding companies created a system where they just kept trying to get their client to always use another member of the holding company, right? As opposed to getting the best creative agency and then the best media agency. It's like, oh no, use it all. And that, I think a lot of people agree, has not been great for the advertising industry and has not been great for the quality of creatives, or media plans that have been created or anything. So I love this idea of being able to kind of take the best from everywhere.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting point. It is an interesting point. I know we could go on forever on this.
Sorry.
But I know we both also have other meetings coming up.
We
So
do.
thank you for the conversation, though. I would love to talk with you again about this soon.